10 years ago, I started a Minecraft server called the 8-bit SMP, or as it was called back then, Cuntcraft. Don't ask why it was called that, it just was. 8 years later, Calamity Craft Season 8 had ended, and then we were working on the second chapter known as Nexus Craft, where the story ramped up from insane to even more insane than you could ever believe. We spent ages trying to come up with the story, we just had bullet points, and that was it for what we wanted to see for that entire thing. And I literally could not wait to share the 8-bit SMP once again. But I also started around that same time, 2 years ago in fact, at the same time as Calamity Craft Season 8 ended, and the end of that chapter of the 8-bit SMP, I thought, wait a minute, these people don't know how these characters met originally. They don't know how anything like started. They don't even know the main characters' names other than the Calamity King, the Skulk Queen, and whatever the fuck other characters that popped up along the way. And the reason for that is I hadn't told you guys the origin story. So I started 2 years ago to write an origin story for the 8-bit SMP, following the Calamity King, the Skulk Queen, the Skulk Observer, and a bunch of other characters that you'll learn about very soon in the 8-bit SMP itself, in Nexus Craft, Toxic Craft, and all its other future chapters as well. So, after 2 years of writing, procrastinating, writer's block, and a bunch of other problems that's popped up along the way that I just do not have the time to fucking get into, 2 years later, 8-bit SMP Origins has officially released on Wattpad and fanfiction.net. You guys can go ahead and read the very first chapter right now if you so wish. It took 2 entire years to write, and please do not be too harsh on how I writ it and on how I written it. I know there's probably like a bunch of problems with the first chapter, as with all my other written projects, and I'm not the best person when it comes to writing or pronunciation or literally anything to do with written dialogue at all. It's not perfect, but it should be at a point where you understand the first chapter at least enough to read it. Again, it's not perfect. It's not like perfectly written, I know. In fact, I changed writing styles like halfway through twice, and I think I've landed on a proper way to write the story. Chapter 2, I'm not going to start working on that. I'm going to give myself a bit of a break before I work on Chapter 2. But Chapter 1 of the 8-bit SMP Origins is officially out right now, today, as of this video's upload, on Wattpad and fanfiction.net. I'll leave both links in the description down below for you guys to check it out as well. Now, what is 8-bit SMP Origins all about? Why have I made it a big deal for the past 2.5 years? And why did I only announce it about a year ago when I was confident enough to mention it at all? 8-bit SMP Origins follows the two main characters, the Calamity King and the Skulk Queen, or as their real names, the Calamity King, known as Jack Daniels, and the Skulk Queen, Yu Akame. These two characters are probably the most important characters on my side of the 8-bit SMP story. I have to specifically say my side of the story, because Drew has also got his own multiplayer storyline based world, and which actually got merged with the 8-bit SMP back in Chapter 1, Season 8. Drew is probably working on a way to kind of like tell the origin story. I don't know just yet. If he does end up like writing the story, I'm obviously gonna make it an ebook as well for you guys to read on Wattpad and fanfiction.net. I'll call it Warworld and then have a hyphen as like 8-bit SMP. 8-bit SMP Origins focuses on Jack Daniels and also Yuakame, other known as the Calamity King and the Skulk Queen, the two most important characters of my side of the 8-bit SMP storyline. These two characters are so important and so integral, I thought it would be a great idea to focus purely on those two for the majority of Chapter 1, you know, let you get to know these characters, like get you to focus more on trying to figure out what these two people were like before the events of the 8-bit SMP, because by the time that you see them in the 8-bit SMP, they are villains trying to dominate the world, and by the end of Chapter 1 of the 8-bit SMP, their curses per se have been slightly sifted and changed a little bit and a little bit more contained, and they're starting to gain their own personalities back after the corruption that they had. But more on that will be happening very later on. Chapter 1 follows Jack Daniels, Yuakame, and a character that we haven't even introduced yet because it was meant to be introduced over an entire year ago, halfway when I was building, when I finished building my mega base in Season 1 of Nexus Craft. But basically, this new character that's going to be popping up in the first chapter is basically going to be important to connecting the timeline of 8-bit SMP Origins and the timeline of of the 8-bit SMP within the Nexus chapter. I have spent 2 years working on 8-bit SMP Origins, specifically Chapter 1, because I've had multiple times where I've had writer's block. I've also been procrastinating quite a bit just because I didn't really know where to take it for a little bit of time. I also didn't know what kind of writing style I wanted to land on, so by the end of Chapter 1, you'll see that the writing style does change, like, drastically. I think I'm gonna go for more of a light novel kind of thing. 8-bit SMP Origins Chapter 1 has officially released today, and I cannot be happier to announce this. It is a project that I've spent so long working on, and I have never been this happy and this proud to release a major project that I spent a good significant amount of time working on. Not once throughout the entirety of my other projects when I released them did I feel it was adequate enough or good enough for me to be proud of. This is something that I really took my time working on, trying to figure out the small kinks and stuff, how it's going to connect and stuff, and I think I did a very good job in keeping the continuity, was also telling you a totally original story from before the story that you guys know and love to this day. The 8-bit SMP is actually undergone a massive overhaul update as well recently, so you're going to be seeing another episode of the 8-bit SMP very, very soon. Probably like a couple of days after, probably like a week or two or next month. I have recorded a quite large portion of the 8-bit SMP overhaul update already, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see some major development within the 8-bit SMP, and maybe, just maybe, you will enjoy Origins as much as you enjoy the 8-bit SMP on its own. So thank you guys so much for your patience for the past 2 years of me working on 8-bit SMP Origins. It is by far my proudest moment that I had managed to fucking... I'm so happy I managed to get this thing done, and it is just such a great kind of thing. and I just love every single moment of this entire project that I have worked tirelessly on for you guys to not only enjoy but to immerse yourself into. Thank you guys so much for your patience and in waiting for 8-Bit SMP Origins Chapter 1. It is probably the biggest written project I've ever worked on, and I've never truly been proud of of not only myself, but also what I have been able to do. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy Chapter 1. Again, links will be provided in the description down below for both the Wattpad version and the fanfiction version, depending on which one of the two you prefer. I will be looking to expanding the amount of places that you can find it as well, so don't you worry for those that like using different websites for your ebooks and stuff. I do eventually want to turn the 8-Bit SMP into its own fucking hardcover book. I think that is the end goal for when I complete it. I don't know exactly how many chapters there is going to be. All I know is that I've got a ton of things that I know I have to tell you. It is my biggest and proudest project to date, and I cannot wait to continue it for you guys. Anyway, I'll leave you guys there.